True spirituality is logical. To me, God gave us an intellect which half the time, sometimes less, seems to operate on a relatively logical basis. Now I say that because often it's our emotions that drive our intellect, and often our intellect becomes quite illogical as a result. But when we use just logic without there being emotions involved that we wish to fight, then our logic has the ability to have clarity and therefore sort out many things. That's why God gave us a brain. One of the reasons why God gave us a mind. Now, to me, true spirituality with substance is logical. It has this thread of logic all the way through it. It may present more and more information in terms of the complexity of the universe, it undoubtedly is going to, but in the end the information will be quite simple once you analyse it from the perspective of truth, love and humility. And secondly, it will also be very logical in the way that it's understood. You'll be able to get it. The average person on the planet, without any degree, or associate diploma, or whatever other things you call them here, would still be able to logically perceive what the truth would be. And that makes sense, surely. If the God was a God of love, he would create the truth in such a way that a child should be able to discover it, let alone an adult. So, what's the opposite to that? Obviously illogical. But we see illogical in so many threads of spirituality. I don't know if you notice that. Like, often on a daily basis, different people email myself and Mary with all sorts of concepts, spiritual concepts that they sincerely believe to be true. But when you analyse them from a logical perspective, they just can't be true. They don't make any sense logically. And so when I write back to them, if I do get the chance, which is rare nowadays, I always talk about, firstly, this quality of logic being a part of true spirituality with substance. Now, if you look at every mainstream religion, there is always a degree of illogicalness in it. Some teachings are very logical, and some are extremely illogical. I can give you an example, for example, with Buddhism. The teaching of reincarnation as it's currently perceived today has, and particularly the way certain religions perceive it, Buddhism and Hinduism in particular, display a large degree of illogicalness in their reasoning. For example, the reason why many priests in India sweep in front of themselves as they're walking along is because they're afraid to step on the soul of a previously existing human by stepping on an ant. Did you know that? What they do is they do not wish to harm or kill any creature at all. So what they do is they even will sweep in front of them to push away the ants so that they don't step on one. Because they believe stepping on one is snuffing out the current existence of a soul that has been previously incarnated as a human. Now, I look at that and I go, if I was God creating life on earth, why would I even create an ant if that's a problem? Because an ant is so easy to step on, is it not? I'm sure the majority of us step on ants every single day of the week. And if we're actually snuffing out the existence of a soul of a human, then that, to me, means that God created this system where to actually conform to God's laws, I've got to brush the street in front of me before I walk.
But aren't you actually making the simple complex with this reason, this logic?
I think I'm making the complex simple.
And then you talk about it.
Can I just...
nature of simplicity in the way that you're expressing it.
Can I just stop you for a minute? Firstly, you didn't put your hand up.
Oh, you don't wish to be interrupted.
No, it's okay. I'm perfectly happy to ask you if you put your hand up.
Okay.
To me, that's an issue of love of everyone in the audience besides myself.
What, putting the hand up?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because you wish to be a part of the talk. That's fine. Put your hand up. Okay, so the question is, aren't I making things more complex? How am I making things more complex? Can you explain that to me?
If you take a chess game, it is very simple to learn the rules of chess in 3 minutes.
Yep.
It takes many lifetimes to become good at it. And what you're saying is that everything is so simple, except that we make it complex. We can't do anything else but make it complex. That is our nature.
That's not what I'm saying, though.
But you're talking about simplicity.
No, if you
stand up there and talk about it.
If you actually heard what I said a way of determining what is true spirituality is it will have a thread of simplicity. That's what I said. It'll have the thread of simplicity. I also said that it doesn't mean there might not be complex things occurring in the universe that we'll eventually discover. But it will always have the thread of simplicity, the thread of love, truth and humility will be the way to determine whether it's true or not in the end. That's what I said. Now, I don't know if that's how I come across, but...
No, you didn't.
Sorry?
You didn't.
I didn't say that.
No, I don't know. I'm not going to disagree with what you said.
Okay.
But you asked if that's how it came across. No, it
Okay.
wasn't that way.
Well, that's how I wanted to come across. Exactly as I just said it then. I don't know about the rest of you. Did you feel it came across like that?
Yes.
Yeah, for me, I understood it.
Yeah, and I feel this is also where different emotions in different ones of us, because of our personal experience and because of what we hear and what's happened in our life, sometimes what gets said often gets misinterpreted, and I'm very happy to clarify what I'm actually saying. So what I'm actually saying is that there is a thread of simplicity through true spirituality. It doesn't mean that all of the concepts will be simple. It means that there's this thread of simple descriptions through it all. It's the same with love. There's this thread of love through it all. There will be this thread of truth through it all. The only way we'll understand it is by becoming more humble ourselves. That's the only way we'll understand it. There's this requirement, if you like, of our soul that we become more humble. That's the way things will work. So with regard to, and what I was talking about in this particular regard was this concept of the idea that if you step on ants, you're actually killing previously incarnated souls, right? And causing them to pass back to the spirit world. And that you need to brush them aside if you're going to be truly holy or truly practicing that particular faith, which is what many of the monks and priests of that particular faith do. They brush it aside. Now I feel that if that was the case, God would have supplied you with a broom as a part of your incarnation process to actually do that. Right? That's my feelings. Now you can disagree with that, that's fine too, but to me that isn't a logical teaching, because the logic is you weren't supplied with a broom, you had to make one, and to actually assume that stepping on those ants is actually killing previous souls is not a valid assumption, particularly if you have no proof or evidence for that particular belief system. Right?
Would you say that in essence, that Buddhic teaching is actually trying to teach that all life is precious?
I agree with that. So I definitely agree with that. All life definitely is precious, and I definitely agree with that. And in fact, if I believe that, I will attempt to practice that in my life personally by treating all life as precious, certainly. So I'm not saying that the underlying principle that it was attempting to achieve is not very simple and loving. I agree. But it then complicates it through this process where, and in the first century I used to say, often ministers or priests strained out the gnat and gulped down the camel. In other words, they swallowed what was very obviously not true, but the very small things they just allowed to go past. Like they took them and ran with them, and actually they became primary belief systems. So this is a main problem that we have today, I feel, is that we have this ability through logic to determine what is truthful, but unfortunately we accept in spiritual development a lot of very illogical understandings. Do you get my meaning? Yep.